Any questions? Because I have one. But you guys go first. Who wants to ask questions? Anyone? Yeah, Adam, is that a question hand or a stretching hand? Okay, any questions? I've now lost the counselor. Okay, I have a question. What this really does is updates the listing from 1950. So it's you're focused on the shrine in the amendment. I guess my question is it the only place that has spirit significance and spiritual and place of peace that is not already included in the current listing? Do you know what I'm saying? This again becomes all focused on the shrine, and I thought that was one of our problems.
No, sorry, excuse me, Madam Chair, and if this is the reasons for inclusion, right? The statement of significance. So there are a number of things that are in the page, paragraph to paragraph, that are described.
Right.
They are all considered a part of the listing. What we thought the issue was just that section separated out the shrine, using the word important site, seemed to be a little bit at odds with giving some sense of higher value or different value, or that the rest of it isn't more important. So this is just a replacement for that particular couple of sentences. The rest of the listing report is intact.
Okay.
And everything that is mentioned in that report has value as described in the reasons. Is that clear?
Clear to me now. So Barbara?
I was just going to say, I think what it does is it simply states that in 2005, the shrine is there. It is an historical association to the property. It does not assign value by removing important, but it is included as a point in the listing as an association, historical association with the property. Rightfully so, considering the community input. But there's no value here. The important inserted some value. The value comes next.
Right. Is everyone else comfortable? Are there any other questions? Okay. So first of all, Matthew, make sure I've got this right. First, we have to approve the amendment. Then we have to approve the report, adopt the report as amended. Is that correct?
Just the one step before that is to be clear with us who is moving the amendment.
Well, that too, but.
And yes, otherwise that's correct. Okay. So you would vote on the amendment.
Okay, so Barbara, you're moving the amendment?
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor? So the amendment is adopted. Now we have to have someone to move to adopt the report as amended. Who will do that? Paul Cordingley. Okay, all in favor? Done. Adam, did you vote? I need a hand that's up or not, or down.
Yep. Is it possible to abstain on this item, Madam Chair?
No.
No? Okay, then I'll vote in favor of it.
Okay. Okay, so that's done.
Again, my name is Gary Miedema. I'm a project manager with Heritage Planning, and I want to recognize that once again, Cecilia Nin Hernandez, a Heritage Planner, contributed to this report through research. This report recommends that City Council adopt an amended listing statement for 3100 Weston Road to inform the property's cultural heritage value and interest, with new information that has arisen since the original listing was adopted by City of North York Council in 1997. Next slide, please. The property is located on the west side of Weston Road at the intersection of Weston Road and Shepherd Avenue West. And the property at 3100 Weston Road comprises a Tudor Revival estate home with garage and surrounding landscape set on a large lot that extends into the Humber River Valley. The subject property straddles the boundary of the Humbermead and Pelmo Park Humberley neighborhoods in Etobicoke York Community Council area. The house on the property was designed for stockbroker Percy Ryerson Gardner by architect Jocelyn Davidson, and the estate was named Rivermead. Over time, the property has evolved to include a red brick, modernist style former school and chapel building complex built for the Order of St. Basil the Great, which currently is the location of the Carmine Stefano Community Center. In 2005, the Marian Shrine of Gratitude was constructed in the rear gardens of the house. So to help you with this graphic, again, the arrow on top points to the school, the arrow below points to the former estate house. The property at 3100 Weston Road was included on the North York Inventory of Heritage Properties by North York Council on October 6, 1997. Following revisions to the Ontario Heritage Act in 2005, 3100 Weston Road and many other properties on pre-amalgamation municipal inventories were included on the City of Toronto's Heritage Register as listed properties on September 27, 2006. Following the sale of this property in August 2023, staff have reviewed the listing statement from 1997 and have determined that the property continues to meet criteria related to design, historical association, and context as adopted by the former North York Council. Given new information about the site that has arisen since 1997, however, staff have amended the listing statement, dated October 2023, to reflect the values of the property more comprehensively. There's a long introduction. Next slide. Subject property, once known as Rivermead, has design value as a representative example of a Tudor Revival estate home with a high degree of artistic merit. The property includes a terraced rear garden with stone walls and swimming pool now filled in, overlooking the Humber Valley. Next slide, please. The property has historical associative value for reflecting the work and ideas of the talented Canadian architect Jocelyn Davidson. Rivermead is also associated with the prominent Gardner and Crang families of Toronto. The property also holds historical value for its association with the Order of St. Basil the Great, which acquired the property in the late 1950s and over time used it for various purposes, including a monastery, a private boarding school for boys, and a co-ed private high school. In 2005, the Marian Shrine of Gratitude was created in the rear gardens and became an important site of spiritual meaning, as well as a space for peaceful reflection and solace in the community. The subject property has contextual value as well as an architectural and community landmark in Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, before we ask any questions of staff, we have to go to our speakers. And the first person I have on my list is Teresa Lubinski, who is a trustee for the Toronto Catholic School Board. Teresa, are you here? Matthew?
Madam Chair, Teresa is connected. Looks like
Teresa?
there she is. I believe she's just turned her camera on here as well.
Okay. Is that you, Teresa? I hear nothing. Matthew?
I can see Teresa on camera. I'm not
Yes,
sure
I
if
can
Teresa
see
can
her
hear
as
us.
well. Teresa, I can see you, but we can't hear you. And she doesn't seem to be able to hear us.
Madam Chair, we'll reach out to Teresa, maybe by email.
So shall
If
I
you
go
want.
on to Edith George next?
Yes, why don't we do that for
And we'll
now?
come back to Teresa.
Thanks.
Okay, Edith?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
And you have 5 minutes maximum, please.
Madam Chair, I just want to hopefully share one photo before I begin.
Matthew?
As per Matthew. Oh, it's going to be too difficult. I'm going to back off. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Madam Chair and members, my name is Edith George, and I have lived in the vicinity of 3100 Weston Road since 1960. The majority of the documents that you see included in this item have been researched and collected by myself for over 17 years. My passion has always been built and natural heritage, especially in the city of Toronto, where I was born educated, worked, and lived. What pushed me to do this research was my fascination of who lived on the land where my neighborhood is located. Like a tree with branches, whenever I thought I had completed my findings, I would discover something else and go out on another branch to see what I could find. I will speak on what is not in these documents, but 2 personal discoveries I made on this journey that I was placed on. These are oral histories from speaking with my dad and his 3 sisters. These are my family's close connections with the Gardner and Crane families who owned Rivermead. Percy Gardner was the youngest of 6 children. 2 of his older brothers became doctors, and their last practices were found in Toronto. Dr. George Gardner's practice was located at 123 Annette Street in the Junction. My family came from Macedonia, Greece, and they settled in the Junction at 112 Mulock Avenue. Dr. George Gardner was their house doctor. When my dad was a young teenager, he became deathly ill, and Dr. Gardner was summoned to the house. He immediately discovered that my father's appendix had burst in his body. He got him into his vehicle, rushed him to the hospital, emergency surgery was performed, and my dad survived. A few years later, my Aunt Florence became ill, and Dr. Gardner came to the house, and he informed her parents that she had rheumatic fever, and it didn't look like she was going to make it. He wanted to try a new drug on her, and of course her parents gave him permission. My aunt survived. That new drug was penicillin. During World War II, my dad was sent overseas. My grandfather was responsible for his wife, parents, and 3 young daughters. To make additional money in the summer, he ran a hot dog hamburger unit at Oakwood Pool. The eatery was called Lou's Grill. He dealt with Jethro Krang's older brother, James Goulding Krang. Jethro Krang purchased Rivermead from Percy Gardner. James Krang was the manager of the Oakwood Pool, a Krang family property. This extra cash helped financially support the family while Dad was overseas. These are the contributions of the Gardner and Krang families to my family. Regardless of any frustrations that I had, and I had a lot of frustrations, this research project has been a pleasure and an honor. I'm very proud to be a Torontonian. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Edith. Are there any questions for Edith? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Edith, and we'll proceed to the next speaker. I can still see Teresa. Teresa, can you hear us now? She can't. She was on mute, but she's not, Matthew, so good.
We've also just sent Teresa the phone number to call in, and we'll see if that can help.
Okay, but in the meantime, let's go on to Angie Carboni.
Good day. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
My name's Angela Carboni. I was blessed to be a tenant in the Carmen Stefano Community Center in 2000. And what I was doing there, I run a charity called St. Bernadette's Family Resource Center. And I rented 3 classrooms, and I provided a day program for 60 intellectually and physically challenged adults who it was their home for 18 years. And they enjoyed going out, tobogganing, going into the park. And the shrine was a great part of our work and our day. Now, in 2003, I was blessed to host youth retreats and student retreats for children. So in a week, I would see anywhere between 300 to 500 children and youth. The highlight of the day, along with teaching them about our faith and having them meet all the beautiful people I serve, was the shrine. Many, many schools to this day, because I still do the youth retreats, are contacting me, asking me if the shrine, if I could ever go back, if I could ever visit them, you know, bring the kids to the shrine. Many days it would rain, and when we would pray there, the sun would come out. I became very, very close to the Basilian Fathers right after the shrine was built, which was 2005 in May. And the kids were allowed to visit daily. So every day we had about 70, 80 youth, children pray there. And it was always a peaceful, beautiful experience. In October of 2005, I went to Lourdes, and I was inspired to go back and tell Father Basil and the Basilian Fathers that we should do processions. And we started doing processions in October 4th, 2005. Since then, it's been 18 years that I have been volunteering and doing processions. Now, Father Basil initiated the shrine because he had an accident while he was cleaning the garden, October 4th, 2004, and a twig perforated his retina. Before the accident, he wore 3 pairs of glasses, and his license needed glasses. Fortunately, by the grace of God, after he pierced his eyes, he was told he couldn't see anymore out of the eye. That evening, he began to see, and it healed abruptly. But the other beautiful thing was that he didn't need the 3 pairs of glasses anymore. In his gratitude for God's healing and Mother Mary's listening to his prayer, he made that beautiful garden. Every rose, every flower was an act of love. And I was part of being with him daily. And the beautiful thing that started happening is people started to be attracted to this gorgeous oasis. It was a little bit of heaven in the city. The grounds are breathtaking. There were wild animals coming up to us, like reindeer and foxes and little baby foxes and butterflies. People would just start gravitating. The more we prayed, the more the public started coming. But then beautiful things started happening. People would report healings, just like fathers. My mother had cancer when she was 85 years old, and this was in 2013. I brought my mother to Father. We prayed there. She was told it was definitely going to be a colostomy bag. Well, when she had this all done and taken care of, we were expecting radiation and chemo. The doctor said, congratulations, your cancer's gone. An assistant of mine who was not Catholic, he came because of the prayers that we would do monthly and weekly. He wanted to say goodbye to me. He was 32 years old. When Gary came, he wasn't even Christian. He was so moved by the peace and the beauty that was there. That night he said, I want to give my life to God. And I said, okay, Gary. And we prayed together, and he went and he got blessed by Father Basil. And then he reported 3 months later he had leukemia. An assistant of mine had endocrine cancer. There are endless people healing. And this is why there's almost 30,000 people crying out right now, because they have found healing. They have found peace. I've gotten immigrants calling me. My phone is like Grand Central Station.
Can you please wrap up? Sorry, Angela.
I am. And the message from everyone, and I'm wrapping up, is to not let this place go. Money can't buy healing. Money can't buy love. And this place is love.
Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions of Angela? Okay, thank you. And Teresa, can you hear us now?
Yes, Madam Chair, I can hear you now. I tried everything and it worked this time to restart the whole computer. So thank you so much, and I apologize for the trouble.
And 5 minutes maximum, please.
Thank you, thank you. So good morning, everyone. My name is Teresa Lubinski, and I am a school trustee for Etobicoke Lakeshore and Parkdale High Park of the Toronto Catholic District School Board. First, I'd like to thank Councillor Anthony Perruzza and Councillor James Pasternak for putting a motion forward last month at City Hall to request heritage designation at 31 Weston Road. This motion proposed full protection of Rivermate, the Gardner family's former country's estate, and the Marian Shrine of Gratitude located at 31 Weston Road, which is just steps away from the banks of the Humber River. The Gardner's family opened their home, Rivermaid, to various charities and organizations such as the Cradle Crutch of York Township, the Red Cross and Group Number 3 of the Women's Auxiliary, and Women's Auxiliary of the St. Clair YMCA. The First Nations of North America used a trail on the property as part of the trade route that connected northern and western Canada with the Gulf of Mexico. In 1958, the Ukrainian Basilian Fathers purchased Rivermaid to use as a monastery and later filled in the outdoor swimming pool. This area evolved into a prayer garden named the Marian Shrine of Gratitude, where the public was welcome. Father Basil Tsimbalisti created the Marian Shrine of Gratitude, and after he passed away in 2018, the shrine remained public. People from Toronto, all over Ontario, and various parts of the world have visited the shrine. My family and I have been going there to the shrine for about a decade. I know the spiritual value of the place, as do the people from different cultures that have visited. I was fortunate to see the house interior. The well-maintained original and historical structure is magnificent. The City of Toronto needs to acknowledge the historical and cultural significance of Rivermaid and the architectural value of the home, the significance of the Gardiner family in Toronto's history, and the evolution of the Marian Shrine of Gratitude as a prayer garden loved by thousands of people from various cultures. It uniquely merges old and new values. The city needs to recognize its historic sites through the eyes of new Canadians and immigrants, and Rivermaid offers that opportunity. At the end of summer, I began working with my colleagues on the Toronto Catholic District School Board to protect the property at 31 Weston Road. Together, we formed a motion that passed unanimously, requesting that both the City of Toronto and the Government of Ontario designate the former Gardner family summer resort, Basilian Father's House, including the Marian Shrine of Gratitude located at 31 Weston Road in Toronto, as a heritage site protected by the Ontario Heritage Act. In this forgotten northwest corner of Toronto, there is no property standing with this wealth of heritage value. As an elected official, I'm entrusted to protect people's needs, and I'm here to represent a substantial number of my constituents from Etobicoke Lakeshore and Parkdale High Park. The Marian Shrine of Gratitude is the heritage of New Toronto, which includes multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-faith communities, where people found spiritually, and the shrine is our heritage now. The asphalt pathway from the parking lot to the shrine is part of the heritage and shows that it was public and open to all in Toronto until recently. Toronto is an immigrant city. The Marian Shrine of Gratitude is part of the park system in Toronto that all people visit, and it should remain public. I hope that Toronto Preservation Board will approve the motion regarding the request to consider heritage designation at 3100 Weston Road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Teresa. Any questions for Teresa? Okay, just one clarification that I think staff will also make, in that this is extending the listing at this point. It is not the designation, but at least it will modify the listing to include this very important shrine. So I just want people to be clear about that.
Hello.
Hello, who's speaking? Okay, the next person is Rose Savage. Is Rose here, please?
Hello.
Who is, Matthew, who's doing that?
Yes, my name is Mr. Lochner.
We are trying to mute this person. It's not their time to speak. We've been trying to mute this person, and I can ask them to keep their audio off until they are called to speak, please.
Okay, because I don't even have that name on my list. Okay, but for the time being, Rose Savage. Is Rose here?
Hi, I'm Rose Savage. Could you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Okay,
And you
great.
have 5 minutes maximum, please, Rose.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I submitted correspondence as well, and so what I was going to review right now are four articles that I've sent everyone with regards to 3100 Weston Road as it relates to the heritage. One is the architect of Emery's treasured Rivermead Emery Village, which is dated March 2022. The second one is Rivermead House and its first owner, Percy Gardner Emery Village, and that was dated April 2022. The third one is North York resident calls for fixes to Carmine Stefano. That was dated June 2019, and it was updated on May 27, 2023. And the last one, the fourth one, is Rivermead House and its second owner, Jethro Crane Emery Village, dated May 2022. So with that being said, and that's already in the internet available for anybody to read, licensed real estate professionals, as well as lawyers, ensure that the buyer is made aware of anything that's heritage in nature and does the research that the land is a designated shrine for all to enjoy. In addition, any existing applications with decades of dedication from community members, public officials, as well as formal and informal contracts and agreements in place to support the community's use. This too would be brought to the buyer's attention and should not have been ignored nor changed prior to the closing of the transaction. Formal acknowledgement, agreement, understanding, and respect for the applicants and the applications already in progress at the City of Toronto are all required in order to proceed with the closing of the transaction. The Planning Department process, as well as the understanding of the current Planning Act, official plan, and zoning bylaws, which require formal public consultation through Committee of the Whole, are required with any planned changes to existing use. So the transaction ignores and disrespects the City of Toronto and the community at large by their failure to adhere to these established processes and the needs of the community. So that's my message, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very, very much, Rose. Any questions for Rose? Okay, seeing none. Okay, the next speaker on my list is one of two from AvranceCorp Development, and it is, and Samuel, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. It's Samuel Babarinde, is that correct? Samuel? Matthew, any sign of Samuel?
I'll unmute. Is Samuel on the phone? I don't see Samuel connected directly. There are three phone numbers that we see, but I don't know if Samuel is one of them.
So should I just carry on through the list then, please?
Yep, let's go on to the next, please.
Okay, so the next person I have is Tom Rakocevic. Have I totally botched that, Tom?
You're doing great. It's I say Rakocevic, but there's many ways to say it.
Rakocevic, that makes more sense. And you're the MPP from Humber River Black Creek.
I am.
I'm 5 minutes.
Yes, I'll keep it brief. I will not reiterate the work and the research done by planning staff. I thank everyone for the work in looking into the important history of the site. I think they've done a great job. I'm just simply here to say that I agree with the recommendations and to state the degree of overwhelming interest by not just the community, but the community from afar, from across Toronto, the GTA, and more. And this is a place visited by thousands and thousands each year. It has a developing and beautiful ongoing history, again, that you have done a great job documenting, and others who have written in, I guess, about that as well have done so. You know, the present is the history of tomorrow, and this is a site of significance as well, in a part of the city, Northwest Toronto, where there are very few heritage properties. In fact, this is one of the longest standing sites.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
In the area, so it is of very, very importance, great importance to protect the site for the future and beyond. And those are essentially the points that I want to make. The final thing is to say that we have seen different petitions of over 20,000 people writing in different ways, shapes, or forms, speaking to the need to preserve the site for now and for the future as well. It is very meaningful, and you've done the history, and it continues to develop, and there continues to be significant interest. They are reaching out to me and to many people, and people still gather to this day on the city property as well with the hopes of preserving it. So I just want to let you know that there is tremendous, tremendous interest. You know the historical value and the ongoing history of the site, and it is of importance to preserve it for now and for future generations, because it is a meaningful place, not just in northwest part of the city, but to Toronto and beyond.
Thank you very, very much.
Hello, Madam Chair, can you hear me? This is Samuel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any queries? Thank you. And we'll go on to the next person. Who is this?
Sorry, Madam Chair, can you hear me? This is Samuel.
Oh, this is Samuel?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay, hold on for 1 second. We were trying to reach you before. So Samuel, you've got 5 minutes maximum. I take it you're the developer who has purchased the site?
That's correct, Madam Chair. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak here today.
Okay.
I have drafted a speech as well, which I've sent to you with some addendums and some pictures. I hope you can take a look at that before you make your recommendation. I am a part owner of this property, and first and foremost, I'd like to declare as clear as possible that the shrine do not exist any longer on this property. The shrine has been cleared off this property by the previous owner. The church is no longer the owner or the legal owner of this property. We are the legal owner of this property. We are a for-profit organization, not a religious organization, and we have absolutely nothing to do with the shrine. We've made this extremely clear to the organizers that we have no interest to continue to host this illegal shrine on our property. The Catholic Church, the Vatican, the Archbishop of Toronto denounced this shrine categorically in different forms. They've issued press release to the public, letting them know that this shrine, the Catholic Church is not in support of this illegal shrine. We feel like our property rights have been violated by the minority worshipers of this shrine that continue to violate our property rights through trespassing our property. And we feel it's quite disappointing, extremely disappointing, that the MPP, Tom, and the councillor, Anthony, are inciting insurrection on our property by giving false hope to the public and to the minority worshipers of this shrine that the shrine will return. This property, the Runnymede property, is a fantastic property that we are going to preserve moving forward. We are going to restore the property. The heritage component of this property will not be destroyed. We are going to, the property will actually be, one of the partners of our company will live in the property. And the pool, which is currently illegally used as a shrine, will be reinstated back to a pool, which is exactly what it was initially in 1919 when it was constructed and built by the Gardner family. Our intention is to utilize the pool to conduct different charitable events for the larger community to benefit from this property. This is no longer a public property. This is a private property owned by a developer. And we do not appreciate the councillor and the MPP encouraging the public to continue to trespass our property. If they care so much about the shrine, we would encourage the councillor and Tom and Angie, who is the organizer of the shrine, to pick the product, to pick the items from the storage and instate the shrine on their private properties. They have homes. They can put the shrine on their private properties. We would not tolerate the public continue to violate our property rights, and continue to trespass our property. Our lawyers are currently working and putting a $10 million lawsuit against all the parties involved in this whole entire incident, and we're going to fight this out in court. We would urge the city not to get involved in this matter because the city will be dragged into this lawsuit because our private property is violated, and we're not going to tolerate this any longer. These guys, the shrine guys, are a bunch of squatters on our property, and they need to go. Setting a bad precedent by passing this motion would encourage other squatters to trespass other properties in Toronto, resulting in multiple lawsuits, which will include the city of Toronto. This is a very bad precedent, and this needs to be stopped at this track. We are not going to destroy the property. Running property will remain the way it is. We're going to reinstate the property. And by the way, I got to make two distinctions there. There's two problems that we're talking about here. There's a heritage component of the property, which is very clear. We are not going to destroy the property. We're not going to change the heritage component of the property. And the Marian Shrine. These are two separate incidents that these folks are trying to put together. These are separate components. Shrine does not belong onto this property. The Catholic Church has denounced this shrine, this Marian Shrine, and they were illegally occupying the property for their illegal acts.
Can you please wrap, Samuel? Samuel, can you please wrap up? Yep. You've almost used up your time.
Absolutely. The Marian Shrine is not recognized as an official legal charitable organization. They are not registered with CRA. They've been collecting money from the public over the last 20 years.
Okay,
and
I have to cut you off here, Samuel. Samuel, I have to cut you off. You've had your 5 minutes, and I think your message is pretty clear, and it's pretty interesting. So can I just ask you one question? Is Teghbir Kairon going to speak as well?
Yes, madam.
So both of you need to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have some questions for Samuel.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
Samuel, the section of your property that formerly contained the shrine is located within the TRCA boundary area, which has restrictions on which forms of development can take place. The pool, of course, dates to 1919, but it would likely need upgrades as it's been filled in for a number of years. Have you applied at all for conservation-related permits irrespective of heritage? Because I think that would be something. It would be intrinsically linked to the heritage, but you may not even be able to build a pool with the Conservations Act.
I appreciate the fact that you asked me that question. We have spent over $1 million in doing a full feasibility study on this property. We've retained a heritage consultant who is currently working and has basically completed a report, and a very full report that will be sent to the city shortly. We know exactly what the problems are with the city, with this property. There's 3 different components to this property. You got the community center section of the property. You got the Rivermint property, the house, Rivermint estate section of the property, and you got the playing fields, which are located at the back of the property. These are 3 segments of the property. The Rivermint estate will remain as an estate. We do not plan any future development on this part of this property. The playing fields at the back, which we refer to as wetland, will remain as playing fields, and we do not have any interest in developing on that section of the property. The community center, our proposed development, future development, is strictly limited to the community center part of this property. So for the councilor and the politicians to continue to lie to the public and put fear in the public that we intend to develop the whole entire property is completely irresponsible, because this does not reflect the reality of what's going on the ground. They are inciting insurrection on our property, galvanizing the public against us for frivolous reasons.
It would be the province of Ontario, but regardless, it will be interesting to see whether the 1919 pool is feasible to restore to use after that many years of not being maintained as a pool feature. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Samuel? Yes, Paul.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is in your deputation, you made reference to items in storage from the shrine. My question is, are you the entity that has those items in storage? Are you conserving those items?
The items have absolutely nothing to do with us. The items were removed by the Catholic Church, and they're currently locked in a storage close by to the property. They've instructed Angela, who's the organizer of the shrine, to remove this property from the storage. She refused to remove the property because she said she has no money. So we continue to pay to store this property at the church's expense. And these guys are crying about shrine, but they refuse to pick up the product or the item from storage. So I don't know how long the property is going to stay there in the storage if they so care about this shrine that they keep crying about.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you're not the one holding those items. That's all I wanted to know.
No, it's not us. We have absolutely nothing to do with the shrine. It's basically the church.
Okay, and my second question is do you dispute the assertion that the previous owner of the property granted the public access to the property prior to your taking possession of the property? Is that a fact?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
okay.
I do have a letter to that effect that was posted in 2006. I have another letter asking these folks to leave the property and making it clear to them that they are trespassing the property. But the fathers, the previous owner, were met with abuse and threat from this organization. They've been threatening, and they've been threatening us as well. We've called the police, 31 Division, to this property multiple times because these folks are assaulting our security officers, spitting on our security officers, inciting violence on our property. I've personally been threatened of gun violence on this property. And this is our property. Our property rights is completely violated, and this cannot be tolerated in the city of Toronto. It would set a very bad precedent.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Sorry, one other question, Samuel. Is a Ukrainian...
Adam, hold on.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Would you like, okay, is there anyone else before Adam asks the question? Okay, Adam, go ahead.
Samuel, have you approached any of the other Ukrainian Catholic orders in Toronto about the shrine and whether they could take the objects? Because it seems that the objects in the shrine do have some community heritage value. We have a number of Ukrainian Catholic congregations in Toronto that may be interested in them. And that might be an avenue for them.
I'm very glad you asked that question, sir. This is something we are willing, we are willing to invest our money to relocate this shrine from where it is and put it to good use somewhere else. Matter of fact, like I said, if the politicians want this shrine in the backyard, we will install the shrine in the backyard at no cost to them, including relocating the shrine to the Ukraine order wherever they're located. I know there's another Ukrainian order in Brampton or Caledon, which the shrine can be relocated at. These folks are not willing or ready to talk about the reality. They rather continue to violate our property rights, incite insurrection on our property, act like they care so much about the shrine, and they try to link the shrine with the heritage aspect of the property. We have absolutely no problem with the city of Toronto designating this property as heritage, but it must not include a shrine. The shrine is not part of this property. And that's the message I'd like to get very clear, because our lawyers are listening, and we are going to go straight to court depending on the outcome of this whole entire hearing.
Okay, I have a question now, because now I'm really confused. Who is responsible for those objects? If somebody wanted to move those objects, who do they go to?
Madam Chair, I'm very glad you asked that question. Angie, who came out earlier with a fantastic speech, a moving, emotional speech, she's been flip-flopping on this issue. We asked her categorically, are you the owner of this shrine? She would tell you right off the bat, no, I'm just a volunteer. I'm not an owner. I do not know who the owners are. When it comes to taking responsibility, she completely denounces herself from attaching herself to the shrine. But when it comes to pushing the agenda in the public and wasting politicians' time and wasting your time, she's at the forefront of it as the organizers. So we do not really know who the organizers are. We keep encouraging Angie to come over and pick up the property. We have the keys. the property was sitting in the storage, come over and pick up your property. But she refused to do so. She refused to come forward, and she continued to misrepresent herself as the volunteer of this, as a so-called just a volunteer, not the organizer, which is completely misleading.
Okay, so you have keys to the storage area where the objects are being kept. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions? Barbara?
Yes, the subject before this board is actually the revised wording of the listing for this property. And I would just like to know if the speaker has an objection to the revised wording of the listing, not the designation of this property.
Samuel?
Sorry, was that question directed to me or?
Yes.
Yes, it's directed to you, the speaker. Yes, Samuel.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. Sir, could you repeat that question just to make sure I understand it?
Okay. The subject before us is the revised wording of the listing for 3100 Weston Road. And my question is, this is a revision of listing, not designation. Do you have an objection to the revision of the wording of the listing before us?
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam, yeah, I do have an objection to it. Like I said before, there's two components here that these guys are trying to model together and try to model the water here. There's a heritage component of this property, which we have absolutely no problem designating or listing. This property will remain as a heritage property. We will not destroy this property. Matter of fact, the property would turn into a private residence, and one of the partners will live in the property as the primary residence.
Specifically, what do you object
continue.
to? Specifically, what wording do you object to in the revised listing?
We are objecting to attach the Marian shrine to this listing.
So you're objecting to the reference to the shrine within the revised wording?
That's
specifically.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Samuel? Okay, thank you, Samuel. So we
Thank you, Madam
have,
Chair.
sorry? Okay, so we have two more speakers before Samuel's partner. So the next speaker is Elizabeth Nahabetian. Have I got that vaguely correct, Elizabeth?
Yes, madam.
Okay, you have 5 minutes maximum.
I will take much shorter than that. I will simply provide a different perspective than has been provided before. And the perspective I wish to invite to be brought upon is the perspective of focusing on the well-being that this site has provided to so many people. I wrote also a statement to the board, which I will not read for the interest of time, but I would rather speak on two different perspectives on well-being. One is offered by Michael Anthony Hart, who is a citizen of the Fisher River Cree Nation. And while he was studying for his PhD in social work at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, wrote a book entitled Seeking Minopitsewin, an Aboriginal Approach to Helping. In his book, in a small passage, page 33, he writes that communities and nations' economic development must include a focus on the well-being of people, including 7 generations to come. And 7 generations is a principle of Aboriginal peoples, which I will not, for the interest of time, go into. But he goes on to say that this must be included in a way which will honor the values and beliefs given to the people by the generations who have moved on. And others have spoken of how lovingly Father Basil, who I had the privilege of meeting, make the efforts of making this as a peaceful place for people to focus on their well-being. Modern research tells us that meditation, mindfulness, and prayer have a very important part of people's mental health. We have all been stretched to the max in this city, and with so much economic and financial uncertainty, I feel that this shrine provides a place where people can recharge through different methods. And this shrine provides the external setting for individuals to practice internal practices such as meditation, such as mindfulness, such as prayer, so that they can recharge their well-being and keep going in the better version of themselves. So whatever the decision is come to, by all peoples involved, I ask that, as Michael Anthony Hart puts a very beautiful saying, focus on the well-being of the people. I thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank you, the board, for considering this petition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Elizabeth? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Perruzza, are you there, please? Is the councillor there, Matthew?
Madam Chair, I see some. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I see someone in our list named Anthony.
Anthony Perruzza, I believe.
Madam Chair, we can reach out by phone or by email to his office if you want to move on to the next.
Okay. So the next person is Teghbir Kairon, and I hope I've pronounced that somewhat correctly, from AvranceCorp Development. This is an associate of Samuel's at the developer's office. Teghbir, are you there?
Yeah, the pronunciation was perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to
Okay,
make sure.
you've got 5 minutes maximum, please.
Not a problem. I just want to start off by saying Sam has touched a point on a lot of things that I was going to say, which is completely fine by me. And I want to reiterate that this shrine, this makeshift shrine, has absolutely nothing to do with this property. It never had anything to do with this property, and hopefully never will have anything to do with this property either. I want to start off by saying hello, everyone. My name is Teghbir Singh. I'm one of the owners at 3100 Weston Road. I never thought that purchasing land would be so controversial, but here we are. I want to start off by saying when we purchased this land, never did we once think that we would have to deal with protesters and squatters in our own backyard. We bought this land to enact one of our rights, which is the right to enjoy our property. I'm not sure how this is possible if I'm being threatened by these squatters who are confused in thinking that they have rights to our land. Before purchasing this very expensive property, we did all the due diligence possible to ensure that we weren't discriminating anyone's religion or culture. We are very religious people and would never do something that would result in the disrespect of anyone's beliefs. Once the Archbishop of Toronto, the Vatican Church, and the fathers who own this property told us that this shrine has absolutely no significance and the fathers actually have no problem with decommissioning this shrine, we decided to move forward with this purchase of land. Before this makeshift shrine was built, there was actually a beautiful pool on the property that we have full intention to, as long as we are allowed on restoring and allowing the entire public to use for various events for charity, and not just this minority group of worshippers who believe that they have more right to this land than everyone else. I want to express with major emphasis that moving forward with a heritage designation will set a terrible precedent for the city of Toronto. What is stopping me from going to a random backyard and anyone's property, building a shrine, and telling my so-called devotees that this place has religious significance, so we must preserve this area? This property purchase and everything has generated a lot of noise with MPPs and city council members supporting this senseless cause. I urge these MPPs and council members that are supporting this movement. We have absolutely no problem moving all the statues and religious artifacts to even their backyard at our expense, to allow these people to continue to observe, as their location has no significance to a shrine, so why not move it somewhere else? I want to end off by saying to the board, I strongly recommend reviewing this decision very carefully, as setting such a terrible precedent will result in nothing but the downfall for property buyers and developers in this beautiful city. I thank everyone for their time.
Thank you. Are there questions? Teghbir, I have a question. Who did you buy the property from?
property was purchased directly from the fathers.
From the fathers. Barbara?
Yes, my question is, it's a yes or no. Is it clear to you that this is not a designation under the Ontario Heritage Act that is before us? It is simply a revision of the already existing heritage listing for the property?
Yes.
Okay, because you keep referring to the designation, which is not what is before us. It is simply the revision of the existing listing wording. And your former partner said that the main objection was the reference to the shrine, which is only a reference as a historical association. Is this your objection to what is before us? Is the revision?
Yes, Barbara. As mentioned before, I started the speech that I had written last night. I wanted to reiterate that everything that was said by Sam, that our objection is against the shrine that has no significance to this property.
So your objection is to the mention of the shrine in the revised wording for the listing?
Yes, Barbara, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Teghbir? Okay, thank you. So that completes our list of deputants.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, Perruzza, I apologize. I was
Oh,
trying
sorry. Where are
yeah.
you?
I'm here.
Okay. Can you have 5 minutes, Counselor?
Thank you so much, and thank you for that. So you folks are absolutely correct. Today, you are basically amending a listing, and I hope that you do that. I agree with the recommendations in the report. Amending a listing that was basically forged in 1997, some 24 years ago, and a listing that migrated onto the City of Toronto's Heritage Registry in 2006, when the City of Toronto was then amalgamated. But the listing has not been looked at since, in the sense that, in the past 24 years, the site has evolved. As we all evolve in age, the site has evolved in age as well. And in that time, the Marian Shrine of Gratitude made its way onto this property, and as you've heard from other people's stories, has basically, been nurtured to life by a very, very substantial and extensive community of folks. The Marian Shrine does not exist as the new owners would like to portray, necessarily at a site on land. Land, as some folks have pointed out, is within the Conservation Authority regulated below top of bank part of the site that would fully be expected to be, to come into public ownership, I would expect, at some point in the future. A site that can't be developed or redeveloped in any significant way. But the property does have, as all of you have looked at and have seen, a great deal of heritage value. The house, the school, the chapel, the hill, the fields, the pond, the river, and yes, the shrine. I was a student back in the school some many years ago. I don't want to age myself, and I can tell you that the pool had been fully drained and was a non-active pool long before the shrine made its way onto the site. Now, I understand the property owners are looking for villains in this saga. They bought a very public property, a property that has been welcoming the community and the general public for 70 plus years. First, as a school, then, for many, many years, and after school and the community and people using the fields and the hill to toboggan and all of those things. And later for a quarter century as a community center where the public has come onto the site, and it's fulsome. under the ownership of the Basilian Fathers, and have used the entire property for a great many number of things. I understand now in the past several months that these folks have come on and say, well, you know what, this is now private property. I get that. But they also need to have an understanding and an acceptance that the way the site is situated along the river, bounding the ravine, bounding the trail, the pond at the back that, developed, when the subdivisions came into existence there and so on. It is a very, very public property. And I understand that they're having some difficulty dealing with the notion of the public coming onto the site. But there's an active community center there that basically welcomes the public for community center program. There are fields that are permitted at the back that welcomes the public for permit use and passive recreational use as well. So in all of that, I would hope that you would amend the listing today to include those things. And I'm glad that many of you have asked some very acute questions about the artifacts that were removed from the shrine portion of the property that have very big deal of significance for a lot of community members who have touched to those things. Now, we were guaranteed by the Basilian Fathers on their way out the door that removed some of those elements. And the
Councillor, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap, but we will be asking you questions, I can assure you.
Just to make the last point, really, about why you've been asking those questions, because I suspect that under your, further review of the property, your folks are going to want to look at those artifacts that were removed from the shrine and assess them for their own heritage value and heritage importance. And we need to ensure that wherever those things are being kept and stored, that they continue to be kept and stored and safeguarded so until that review is able to be finished, because there's lots of pictures and lots of video of all of those things that were taken out of the show.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So are there questions for the councillor?
Excuse me.
Hello.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions, but I'm not certain if it's best to direct them to Heritage Planning or Councillor Perruzza, but just very briefly, are there specific artifacts within this shrine that have been flagged to your office as being the heritage contributing features? I know this is a listing rather than a designation. For example, St. Basil's Church on Bay Street has a human heart located underneath the altar. Some of those would be harder to move than others, and of course there's a miracle associated with this specific site. I'm just wondering which aspects of the shrine itself are considered constituting the shrine versus ancillary objects. And the second is, has your office had any contact with the Ukrainian Catholic Eparchy? It's based on Bellwoods Avenue over at Trinity Bellwoods. They would be the, I think, authoritative figure when it comes to where to have these artifacts taken. And I don't think anyone has actually mentioned speaking to that office yet.
Yeah, so the answer to the second question is no. And I understand that the owners want villains in this saga, in this story, but I have come very late onto the site, and because the community, obviously, when several months ago, when some of those elements of the shrine were being taken out in the shrine, then there were letters circulating that the shrine would then be closed to the public because of the sale and the sale was going through. Obviously, there was a big reaction by the community, and I was invited onto the site. And while I had seen it in the past, I had never been an active. I'd never had any active involvement with it. Although in the past several months, I've been well educated by the community and so on. And that's why I say that the shrine lives in the hearts and minds of the people that have worshipped there, and the people that have witnessed miracles there and have received miracles there, and it lives amongst them. And what I witnessed and what the miracle was for me, as the gates were being closed to the shrine, I attended the event, and there were hundreds of people in the shrine, and basically the tears and sorrow streaming down the faces of the young and the old and everyone else. And that was the miracle for me, the attachment, the emotional, spiritual attachment that people had to this location, to this, and to the, into their sense of worship and their sense of peace there. And that for me was a miracle. And then, I thought, what, this needs to be preserved. And these people have nurtured this place, have taken care of it so long. And I know that the owners continue to refer to squatters and so on, but these folks have been nurturing this site for 18 years, and it's not like these owners are dealing with an adverse possession claim by the community, saying, look, we've been here, we've been taking care of it, with the complicity and the participation of the Brazilian fathers, the former owners and so on. And now here you go, you know what? We would like to, claim it for ourselves. That's not what we're doing here. So when they use these labels, the new owners, they need to really sort of be careful and cognizant of the fact that what they're dealing with here, and they use words like rebellion and so on, what they're dealing with here is a very peaceful community of people who just want a place to pray, a connection to a place where they come and find spiritual peace and solace for themselves. That's not rebellion or insurrection or squatters. They parade on a field near the site and have a spiritual connection to it. So I would ask those folks to tone down the rhetoric, tone down their conversation, and really what they really should be doing is reaching out to us as a community and saying, look, how can we move forward together here? Because this is a serious conversation that we need to have with these folks going forward if they want to, unless they want to turn the site into a golf range and knock golf balls from the top of the hill.
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza.
Those conversations need to take place.
Okay, thank you. We've got some messages.
Madam Chair, one brief comment, Councillor. I recommend perhaps your office might facilitate a meeting between the various core parties here with the Ukrainian eparchy, because that seems like it might be an option to come to a resolution. And if the folks are talking to all these different organizations, Vatican City and such, perhaps talking to the regional office may have a more acute response when it comes to the situation.
Anyways, let's carry on. We have
you make
one
good suggestions and we'll take you up on that.
Yeah. Okay. One last person is Olga Rubino, who wishes to speak and who registered before the meeting. Hi, Olga.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you, Madam Chair. And
You've got 5 minutes.
It'll be brief. I'm going to read from some notes, so I'll just take the camera off while I'm reading and then speaking spontaneously.
Okay.
So good morning, Madam Chair and everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm here to make a plea for the support of the listing and also to make a plea to maintain 3100 Weston Road as a heritage property to be preserved in its original state. I would like to remind us all that the property includes several aspects to it. There is the Tudor style house, there are the backyard gardens with the Marian shrine, there's the outdoor gazebo, and there is what I call, not being an architect, but the L-shaped red brick building that houses the chapel, the original church named St. Basil the Great Church, and also the original high school named St. Basil the Great College School. So what is my affiliation to all of this? I am by vocation a teacher. I am a retired French immersion high school department head, supervising principal of Elementary International Schools program with the Toronto Catholic District School Board, and have served the community in education for over 40 years. My other affiliation is my aunt, Esterina Colaguori, who is 96 years of age, lives in the neighborhood and is one of the original members of the Rosary group, who actually every day for about 20 years went with over 20 people to help to maintain the shrine. She pruned the roses. She helped Stanley the gardener. She taught him, we are of Italian heritage background. She's an immigrant. She taught him how to maintain the property, donated many artifacts herself, including the Bible. So I will just continue on those 2 points. So my affiliation, 1, the Catholic education, and 2, the personal prayer spiritual aspect component to my presentation here today. So for number one, the Catholic education, a case to honor the historical evolution of education in Ontario. Our school building and chapel, St. Basil the Great, at 3100 Weston Road, was opened in 1962. It was the very first Catholic high school to serve the northwestern area of Toronto. The red brick building at the site houses that original Catholic high school, St. Basil the Great College School, and the building also houses the chapel, but the two are in and of themselves in one building. Education and regular religious practices held in the chapel were an integral part of Catholic education. I feel very proud to have been part of that entire movement. I have done some research. I will provide Madame Chair with the research papers if I am allowed. The research papers have been written which give evidence to the importance, the historical importance that took place from the 1800s with the British North America Act to the famous Tiny Township case in 1925 and the ensuing creation of Catholic schools in the province of Ontario. The preservation of the chapel and the school, St. Basil the Great, honor this history, this legacy, this heritage in Toronto. Two important research papers are, one is entitled History of Catholic Education, prepared by the Ontario Association of Parents in Catholic Education. It delineates the historical events that took place and in federal law to support the Catholic education and the movement in Ontario. And the other paper, A Short History of Catholic Schools in Ontario, prepared by Dr. Mark G. McGowan, Professor of History at St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. That is a comprehensive paper on the historical importance of the various Catholic school buildings themselves in Toronto. The preservation of the red brick building as is at 3100 Weston Road, which houses the school and the chapel, and which, you know, within that building, there are as well icons, religious icons within the chapel. And I do understand that the school now has been converted and is being used as a community center. However, that one building in and of itself does also house icons. And maintaining this building would honor the rich heritage and historical importance of the school and the chapel, both named St. Basil the Great. Now I'll pass on to my second point. You're
going to have to wrap up, please, Olga.
Okay. The Tudor-style building, Marian Shrine, an outdoor gazebo. We've heard a lot about that, so I'll just go very briefly. All of the miracles that have taken place and have been recorded. My aunt, who is 96 years old, Esterina Colagori, has a lot of the oral history with regards to the events. She was interviewed on City TV. I can obtain the oral history that she has and write that down. So I'm just wrapping it out. In conclusion, I feel it's our duty as Torontonians to support this listing and also to maintain the entire 3100 Weston Road site as a heritage site.
Thank you
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Olga? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Olga.
Thank you.
Who's speaking now? Okay. So now we're up to asking questions of staff, of which there may be several. So Julia, do you want to get the ball rolling?
Sure thing. For staff, I think perhaps something to the effect of what does a listing do? What are the next steps? What does this mean for the property? I think that would be really fruitful given the number of listeners here, because we have an amendment to the listing before us. So let's say this happens, what are then the next steps going forward? And what is the heritage focus? Because there's lots of other different strings here, and we want to ensure that our focus remains on the heritage.
Through you, Madam Chair. Good morning again. There's so much to unpack in this item, and I appreciate the focus here on the listing itself, because it is very important that everybody, including the community, understands what is happening here at this moment, what is yet to come, and for the owners as well to understand that. And Barbara McPhail was getting to some of it in her line of questioning as well. So what we thought was important was to ensure that through the listing, as this property goes forward, understanding that there will be a development here, that all of the pieces and parts of the historic associations in particular are recognized. So it's while Rivermead as the individual house was the one that came forward with the original listing, over time the property has become very prominently associated with what happened after the 1950s, after the sale to the Basilian fathers. So the fathers, in fact, are embedded in the history of the house itself, not just the original owners, because it was occupied by them and because of the prominent place that they had in the community and within their own order. So they are associated with the house. Over time, then we have as we heard, the creation of the school, of the chapel, of the various associated features. So you've heard many perspectives. This is a complex site. And some of it can be redeveloped for a variety of reasons. Some of it cannot be for perhaps conservation-related reasons. But at this time, we're not trying to understand the future of the property. And we're not determining the future of the property either. And it's as important for the community and the owners to know that what we are trying to do is establish a number of values that have come to this property. And community value, I just want to be clear, community value is not given by owners. And I don't say that to be provocative, just to say we've certainly, and this board has seen instances where we have listed properties by an architectural firm. And the architectural firm has actually come forward to our sort of chagrin and surprise and said, no, that property that I designed is not important to me. It doesn't represent my work. It doesn't do whatever. And so I do not believe it should be listed. And yet the individual who either owns or creates the property is not the one that gives the value. It's the value that things have to communities. And that's what the Heritage Act is really focused around, community value. So it's very clear that there is strong community value here related to the Basilian fathers. In 2005, the shrine activity began, and it's to the work that we're doing for the listing. It's not been important for us to determine whether it was or was not a shrine that was recognized in some formal listing of shrines. Who says it is this, who says it is that, who owns the objects, who don't own the objects. We're looking at value. So again, the fact that there has been a tremendous amount of interest and concern, and also evidence that since 2005, there have been many individuals who have found peace and solace and all the things that you've heard. That is an intangible heritage value. That is a sacred value. That is there regardless of whether or not there are objects there. I do recognize that within the Catholic tradition, objects are very important, but under the Heritage Act, objects are actually considered to be chattel because they're movable, precisely because you can pick them up and take them away and put them in a storage locker. And I'm still not clear entirely who owns the objects, but that's for another day. The objects are not a question here. The property will have value whether it becomes a swimming pool again. The property will have that value because the community has given it that value. Again, I say that to not presume the future of the site, but to say that from our perspective, with our research and from what we've heard from the community, this has been a place of sacred significance to a number of people over the years. And that can be so if the fathers think it is or is not significant, if the current owners think it is not significant. We believe that to be true, and a reasonable statement of fact from what we've heard. What we've decided to do, Council had asked us to look at a designation, and so because there are many things to understand about the various complex and interconnected nature of this site post-1950, we wanted to rewrite, update the listing to get the 1950s into it, to ensure that the shrine was mentioned as something that has been associated with the site, not because we want to control it, not because we think that there is, not that we're trying to, trample on property rights or anything, but just to put that out as a statement. Because of the way things work with heritage impact assessments and the development process, this just allows us to say and because there is clearly a difference of perspective on the values to the site. So this is what we're saying at this time. Through the development process, I'm very pleased to hear that there's a heritage consultant who's been hired to do a heritage analysis of the site. I hope that it will be comprehensive and not just discount the value of anything here because there is an attempt to say that something has no value. To say it has no value is to my mind, we would say that because we didn't think that that was something that should be saved. And we see again and again with this group, with the designations when they come forward, even things that we say have value are removed. They're demolished, they are changed, so again, the discussion about the whole site will happen and is beginning, and this is very important input. When the development moves forward with further discussion with the city, our role will be to look at the heritage impact assessment, to do the additional work that's necessary, and to express what we believe to be a comprehensive set of heritage values for the site, which will come forward presumably at a future time as a designation. And then after that, there will be the discussions will become very focused on what is going to happen in the various pieces and parts of this property, of which there are a number of things going on. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I really wanted to be as comprehensive, and if I've missed something there, please do ask me more questions.
Before you do that, thank you very, very, very much, Mary. That's extremely helpful. My head is about to burst. But that said, it's 12:21, and we have to vote to extend the meeting past 12:30, and we have the one more item. So for starters, never mind how long the next item will take, let's just vote to extend till what, 1 o'clock, Matthew?
Madam Chair, yes, you can extend to 1 o'clock. You can also extend to complete the agenda.
That would be my favorite.
We'd need to be clear on which one we're voting on, though.
Yes, I will. I would personally like to extend to finish the agenda because I don't think it really stretches things even more if we have to then go away for 30 minutes and come back. I have put this motion before you. And Adam, are you back? Your camera was off. I need everybody for a vote. Adam Wynn, are you there? There you are. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's right. Okay. So, all in favor of extending till the agenda's over? Okay, we're all in favor. So let's keep going. So Mary, thank you very much. What I would say is the listing gives you, it's like a placeholder. It's like a stake in the sand that will keep this in front of people until exactly what you said. You get you see a development plan, you get a heritage impact assessment, and you can go into that deeper dive. that is necessary. But if we don't list it, then it's gone. I mean, then you can't say, gee willikers, let's come back and call it something else. And the other thing is with the new rules, which we will hear about how they're being dealt with in the next item, if we don't list it, then when the development application comes in, you're toast because it wouldn't have been listed before a prescribed event happened. Is that correct, Mary?
Well, it's yes and no.
Semi-toast.
Madam Chair,
Semi-toasted.
because the property is already listed, we would
Right.
have been in a position to be okay to designate.
Yeah.
But we felt, given the age of the listing and also given the very prominent conversations that are happening here, that we felt that it was important to do an updated listing.
Okay.
To be very clear from the city's perspective that we believe it includes the post-1950 history. And I'll put it broadly because that is what we're doing. It's all the post-1950 history, of which the shrine has occupied a part of. But we didn't outline attributes. We didn't do any of that. We wanted to give a comprehensive sense of what as a place to begin the conversation.
That's right.
So in that sense, you are correct,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Barbara.
Yes, thank you, Mary, for the comprehensive explanation. That is actually what I was trying to get forward, was the fact that this is only the beginning of the process. Yeah. My one question is that in the revised wording, I wanted to know why the word important site was put in for the Marian Shrine of Gratitude, and whether or not it would have been better served to have used in the revised wording important at the front of that paragraph, which would encompass all of the history and historical associations of the site. I'm wondering if that word important for the shrine is problematic.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we'd have to think about that. I mean, it's an interesting point. I mean, I guess the thing is when we are noting something as having heritage value, we're basically saying we think all of those things that we're mentioning have some importance. And perhaps the emphasis there was on the word site as a location and not so much on the word important, because it's all important. And so I'm not sure what material a difference that might make. It's too complicated for me to say on the fly, but I think that's a really interesting point. It may seem semantic, but semantics are important here. And so we can take that back and think about it as this moves forward and see if that would make any difference in how we would. I don't think the interpretation of it would vary by having that word or not, but it isn't necessary. That's true, because the site is important for a variety of reasons over its history. Mm-hmm. The site writ large, the property, I suppose. Yeah.
My preference would be to remove important, but I think the way it reads, that people can read that the emphasis is on the importance of the shrine. It can be read that way. I personally feel that important, if it is to be used, should be up front or not at all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? I tend to agree with Barbara because that's where I thought the focus was adding the shrine. But anyway, are there other questions for Mary? Yes, Robert. You're muted, Robert.
Should we be considering an amendment?
Yeah, that's what, that the recommendations be amended to place the word important.
No, I mean, I think that the suggestion that an important, it should be a site rather than an important site. Since we're describing everything that's important.
Yeah.
And just to say, a site may even be a little bit of a red herring as a word, but I'm not sure. place. We speak to sense of place, we speak to intangible value. There are lots of different ways to express this. I would like to take a minute. I'm just getting some notes from Gary, and I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, if the board wishes to come forward with a motion, we can help you with that. But the precise wording is a little bit elusive to me in this minute.
Okay.
So maybe it could be a motion to consider the wording in order to be clear that the entire property has significance, because we have the word property, we have site, we have space, we have place, we have a bunch of different things going on there in terms of hierarchies.
Right.
Can you kind of look that over, and are there any other questions of staff? Okay, is there any discussion among us? Okay, so what I'm going to recommend is I hold this down. You figure out, Mary, what you're comfortable with, and then can we go on to PB 10.7, the staff presentation, and then come back to this for a vote? Is that just to keep the meeting moving?
Well, actually, we could move it even more right now, because we're just having a little behind the scenes discussion, and I think staff would certainly be comfortable if the board would be comfortable revising to a place of spiritual meaning.
Of spiritual
meaning. Yeah. So it's not an important and not an important site of spiritual meaning, but a place of spiritual meaning. As
yes.
well as a space for peaceful reflection.
Yes.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah. Okay.